This is the World Satsanga on the 17th of August 2013. So we're all online, okay? There's 10 of us today, which is very, very good. And thank you all for spending the time to be part of this Satsanga. We've got some apologies from Alice Ann and Alice Lee because they've got other work that they're doing, and the bringing it forward a week has caused a little problem with their schedule. So we'll thank them for being part of the group, but we'll invite them into being part of the group when they actually hear. I think Marnie's just about to come into us actually. Let's see if I can pull Marnie in. No, I didn't want to do that, did I? just activate something else. Let's see if I can pull Marnie in. Marnie can probably bring herself in actually. Let's do it. Let me just do a quick. So Marnie's just come online. So we should be on the top. Marnie. Let's just put. Right. So we're going to continue then. Now we've got 11 of us now, including Marnie, which is fantastic. Thank you again. Thank you all for your time and patience with the technology. The first thing I want to do is introduce Marjorie to you. Marjorie, can you just give us a very short summary of your spiritual past and history so people can understand where you're coming from and what you're doing? Now, before Marjorie starts, Marjorie did level 2 last year with me in Detroit. So I've known Marjorie for some time, and she's also a good friend of Fiona Trickett as well from the UK. So we've got a good link there between the US and the UK, between those two people. But if you want to just very concisely explain your spiritual heritage, Marjorie, that'd be great.
I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. My background is I am a nurse, and my spiritual journey started many years ago, and I am a Reiki master. I've studied many healing modalities, which I do use with physicians in the area. I have a company where we teach healing modalities, the one that we call fifth-dimensional healing. I do a lot of spiritual mentoring, and I met Guy in one of his programs.
Okay. Thank you, Marjorie. That's great. So Marjorie's got level 2. She's working on getting me over to a conference in Atlanta during May time, where we can try and work out a level 3 for the people who are part of the Detroit workshop, and maybe we can see if we can do a level 1 and level 2 as well at the same time. But Marjorie's working very hard for spirit and for the good of mankind as well, as you all are, as we all are. Okay, so what I want to do now is just go over the agenda. We've had the greetings and the stabilisation of the system. We've just introduced Marjorie. And the next 2 subjects I want to deal with tonight. One is about walk-ins, what they are and what they're not, and what sub-incarnations are and how they work. And then we'll go through the usual questions and answers session. And then I want to do an inverse version of what we did last time for the experiencing MetaConcert. So rather than using our collective synergy to go expand ourselves out into the multiverse and go beyond just beyond the peripheral of the multiverse, I want to make it introspective this time, which is a different way of doing it. For Marjorie, if you go onto my website, which is www.guystephenneedler.com, and look on the right-hand side, and look for the World Satsanga on the 27th of July, and click on that. There's a link there that gets you to the Satsanga that we did last time, which would have been the other version of this meditation. So when you've got time, you can log into that and experience what we did last time. And because you log into it, you log into that same event space, so you become part of what was there, which is great. And it means that you can experience everything concurrently in the same space, rather than thinking about it being past, present, or future. Okay, so walk-ins. Okay, who knows about walk-ins? What is a walk-in? Anybody tell me what a walk-in is?
I've heard a lot about it.
Okay. Yeah, so Lily first. What have you heard, Lily?
That a higher self comes in and replaces the older.
Okay.
Spiritually, and there's new contracts.
Okay, that's a good explanation. Mo, you were about to say something as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's similar, but is it sometimes you need extra help, so some other entity comes in just to give you some more help?
No, it's not actually. That would be something completely different actually. But anybody else got any ideas about what a walk-in is?
Yes, Guy.
Yeah. Go on, Chris.
I think, if I read it right, a walk-in is when somebody wants to abort their mission, the walk-in will take over. Or if a body dies, the walk-in will take over before 3 days the body dies, or something like that.
Okay. Well, let me just, if you can all turn your mics off, let me just give you my understanding that I've gained from spirit. There's basically two types of walking that can change. Now, Lily's got a good explanation. Mo's got something else there, which is I'm going to deal with later with this description. It alludes to something else, not quite a walking, but it can go under the heading of possession, which is something else. So it's all very interesting. Now, a walk-in is essentially when another spirit, another aspect of another higher self, and the higher self is also classified as the Godhead or the true energetic self, comes into an existing human vehicle, a mature human vehicle. And the reason why it does that is one of two reasons. The main reason is the spirit that's incumbent in that body doesn't want to continue anymore. Wants to finish the contract, if you want to call it that. It wants to move out of being associated with the incarnate existence. And so there's an opportunity for another soul, or another aspect of another true energetic self, or Godhead, or higher self, can come into that body and use it for the rest of that vehicle's existence. So, for instance, if the body is 45 years old, and the occupying spirit, that aspect of the higher self which has been separated out to animate that body, decides it's had enough and doesn't want to do any more work in the physical, provided there's an opportunity for another soul, as it were, let's call them souls or spirits to keep it simple, can use that opportunity, then that soul can move out of that body and another soul can come in. Now, what that means is that the spirit that was, or the spirit of the soul that was part of that body, returns back to spirit, and it doesn't get any detrimental karma or low frequency attachment as a result of that move. So it's preferential in this instance to committing suicide, for instance, which is another thing. And there's only very, very, very special circumstances where the suicide's allowed, because if it's too hard for the spirit to continue in a human form, then under extreme conditions, the euthanizing of that body is allowed, but in extreme conditions, not normal. But so one spirit comes out of the body and returns back to spirit, and then can do what it does normally in the energetic, and another one comes into that body. To those who are unaccustomed to what's happening, i.e. most individuals who are incarnate on the earth, there appears to be a personality change which happens, which is relevant to that spirit that's come into the body. It may be they've gone from being a very kind person to a very edgy person, or a very self-centered person. It may be that they change completely around the other way around, where they're previously a very edgy person, they've become a very kind person. So that's the very basic one. There's a more complicated type where, for instance, the spirit can. I've got to get this right now, because this one's a bit complicated now. The spirit can leave the body, but the body can die. so there's no actual walking happens. So the body goes. And those sort of instances are pronounced when you see people in comas, for instance, or they have sudden things like embolisms in the brain, that sort of stuff. They can go that way. Now, if that doesn't happen and it goes to the normal route, then a spirit can swap out of a body and a new spirit come in. Now, that spirit can either go back to spirit, or it can, should it desire, go into another body. Now, so what we've got here is the opportunity for a spirit that's left a body to move into another body. But that only happens if the spirit that is entering that body was previously the incumbent spirit of another body. So you've got two situations there where the spirit comes from being from spirit into the body, allowing that spirit that's part of that, that's incumbent in the body in the first place, goes back to spirit. That's a very clean walking, where you see a personality change. The second one is when the spirit comes from another body, basically, where there's a body swap happening between the one spirit and the other spirit. So in the first body that the spirit leaves, another spirit comes in, evacuating another body. Now that body can either die normally, for instance, if it's dying anyway. So if that body's, for instance, either has got a terminal illness, such as cancer, but the spirit wants to continue in an incarnation, and there's an opportunity for a walk-in to occur where that spirit can come out of that body and go into another body, because the spirit in the first body, for instance, we talked about, wants to leave the body because he's had enough. We've been working in the earth environment. The spirit that's in the body that's got a terminal illness can move out into that other body. Or, and then one of those bodies dies and one spirit goes back into spirit. Or there's the other aspect of that where actually two spirits swap bodies. And we've seen a few films where the personality swaps bodies recently, haven't we? If you've seen those comedies where somebody's gone from being a mature person into a child's body, and then the aspect of the person in the child's body is going into the mature body. It's just that sort of thing. So there's actually sort of three types there. There's the standard type where a fresh spirit comes into a mature body, and the spirit with that mature body leaves and goes back to spirit. Or there's one where the spirit wants to leave a mature body to go back to spirit, and there's another opportunity for the spirit to leave a body that's about to demise or die, to reoccupy that body because they want to continue. Or there's a complete swap over there where one spirit goes from the first body to the second body, and the spirit in the second body goes to the first body. And that's what walk-ins are. And in effect, it's rather than just the one type, there's those actually three types. I said two types. There's actually three types looking at it, because there's two main types, but the second type has got a subsection there where, depending upon whether the spirit comes from another body, it depends on whether it's a subset or an actual part of that walking. Does that make sense to anybody? Has anybody got any confusion over that? Because I can see that it could easily be confusing.
Guy, I have a question. So when these transactions, so to speak, happen, is there a way where the permission is granted, or there's a contract, or is there like notification, or do we know how that happens, and agreement or something like that? Physically, we will not know anything ourselves. So that part of us, for instance, if I left this body now, there would have had to have been an agreement within the spiritual realms for me to leave the body and another spirit to come into this body. So that personality, if you want to call it that, which forms the guy Needler in this body,
will leave this body and another personality will come into it because it's another spirit. That has to be agreed within the spiritual realms, within the guides and the helpers that are helping us, and the hierarchy that surrounds that work. In terms of the physical aspect of people who know us, like brothers and sisters, other family members, like parents and friends, all they would see is all of a sudden we've had a change in personality. We've either got aggressive or we've got passive. We've either become eccentric or conservative. You know, these sorts of things come out. So they wouldn't see anything other than a change in personality that tells them that they're walking. The body itself wouldn't know because it's a vehicle. It's a dumb body. Without the spirit in it, it is useless. It would die. It would demise. So the body itself wouldn't know. One of the individuals I worked with not so long ago said that she was told she was a walk-in. And I looked at her and I thought, that's interesting. So I logged into her and I found she wasn't a walk-in. Something else was going on, which I'm going to allude to in a moment, about possession. Why walk-ins aren't possession. Does that help, Lily, at all?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions on this? Because it's quite a difficult subject to get one's head around. And I can see me having to do an article on this, to be honest.
It would be nice to know, to understand the difference of a walk-in and something other than the walk-in, you know?
Yeah.
How do we know if it's a walk-in or a possession or something else other than a walk-in?
Yeah. Now then, possession is fairly easy for the adept spiritualist to see. A walk-in is where there's a complete change of personality, and there's no. If somebody's looking at you with their spiritual eye, they won't see anything different about you. You would have an aura. You would have all your chakras in place, and everything would appear to be normal. That would be a walk-in. There'd be no difference there. If it's possession, that's something different. Possession is when the same spirit is still within the body, but there's an astral entity, a low-frequency astral entity, which doesn't have the ability to metabolize its own energy, but nevertheless needs to feed off a host, has been able to break into the auric layers. And it can do that, for instance, when people get very drunk or they're on drugs, and the spirit gets ejected out of the physical form, and there are cracks and tears appear in the auric layers. This allows another entity, a low frequency astral entity, around the 4th to the 7th frequency level within the physical universe, but nevertheless invisible to our physical eyes, to enter into that aura and be there in a covert way, and up to and even when the incumbent spirit comes back, when the body is more harmonious to the energies, because when people take drugs or they have too much alcohol, the body becomes abhorrent to the spirit, so it ejects itself out of the way. So therefore, that
You're still on the line.
Yeah, sure, I'm still here.
Yeah. Someone says they cannot hear you.
Okay. Is that Fiona? Okay. 1 moment.
That was earlier, Guy.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, fine. So what happens there is that we see an influence happening, where the entity that attaches itself to that person, that gives it a little bit of power, for instance, a bit of coercive power,
Yeah,
a bit
I
of
think
ego.
maybe you should redial.
Yeah.
And what is your name? Never mind.
Okay.
Someone couldn't hear you guys, so
Okay.
I could hear him, so I wanted to talk.
Okay. Okay. Good. Doesn't matter. So in effect, that entity can coerce the individual energetically to do things they wouldn't normally do. That's called possession. That's one form of possession. Another form of possession is a coercive link, where somebody is in harmony for a moment with somebody who is, for all intents and purposes, not on the same wavelength. They're more interested in their own physical existence, but they energetically, and they probably don't know they're doing this, create a link with somebody, and they're able to coerce that person to doing things that they don't want to do, or wouldn't normally do is more the word. And therefore they create a link between that person and can subliminally make them do things that are out of character. And they probably don't even know that they're doing it actually. Some people start to change personalities in this way and they don't realise that these things are happening. And so somebody with a stronger shall I say, ego, can break into the shielding or that is normally there from the aura, which isn't quite strong to be honest, and link into them and make them do things that are against their normal personality traits, and therefore basically they effectively have two ways of affecting what they want to do on Earth. They have themselves and they have somebody else as a puppet in effect, and they possess them in some way, shape or form. So rather like the disincarnate, the astral entity moving into that person and giving them feelings of power and feelings of importance and ego, and maybe helping with the coercion of other people, this is an actual link, an actual energetic link between two people that acts as coercion, and therefore is if you like, it's possession by remote control, because there's an energetic pipe, if you want to call it, that goes from one person to the other person, whereas the astral entity actually links themselves onto the physical aspects and the spiritual physical aspects of that person. There's a third possession as well, where a disincarnate entity, such as a person whose body has demised or died, but hasn't quite understood that they are dead, or doesn't want to leave the earth realm at all, and wants to go back into and experience physical existence. And what they do is they look around for weak people who've got weak auras, and they move into those auras, and they start to manipulate and work with the physical form. And in that instance, you can get what people call split personality. So you'd spot it by the fact that one moment this person is a very nice person, what they've always been, and at the next moment they can change personality totally. And that's because this other spirit is occupying the same body at the same time, which is an interesting thing to observe. Okay, does that help? The difference between possession and walking, because possession is when there's actually two aspects in the same vehicle, as against one aspect, one soul.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Is there ways to protect yourself from possessions? Obviously, meditation and keep your aura strong. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, basically, you can reinforce your aura and your psychic shield by imagining yourself to be stronger than you are. I mean, I've got a correspondence course now that actually deals with teaching people how to do a robust and programmable psychic shield, which works all the time.
Okay.
Which is available through the website, clearly. but in effect, we need to be. So if we imagine that we're surrounded by light and we're surrounded by the source, and that we say that nothing can enter into our aura and work with us in that way, then we do use our intention not to be invaded. So it's important to put our own intention out there as well, that we're not going to be affected by anything else. That makes sense. It's when we're not cognizant of what can happen, and we go around without any mental intention to be safe or to be protected, that we become unprotected.
The guy can ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
What happens if you have to have a general anaesthetic, let's say, and you're having an operation, because obviously your defences come down because of drug induced? How do you stay protected in those circumstances?
you can put your intention to maintain any shielding you've got, to maintain its integrity whilst you're under the anaesthetic. Now, anaesthetics are there to almost kill you, basically. They're there to put you unconscious so that things can be worked on with the physical form without any pain being experienced. But in essence, they are, by design, an anaesthetic is there to almost kill you, and then they can bring you back with an antidote, or by reducing the amount so that you become unaffected by that anaesthetic. And it is possible, and clearly there's examples of this where people have got out-of-body experiences on operating tables, where the anaesthetic has actually been so abhorrent to the incumbent spirit that the spirit's been ejected from the body in the same way as it would have done had it had a large amount of drugs, for instance, or a large amount of alcohol. So the only thing one can do is to really meditate on making sure that one's shielding is cohesive and is strong before we go into that anaesthetic state under anaesthetic, so that we're protected irrespective of what happens. When we use our intention, it's a very strong commitment to the use of energy, and if we use our intention to be protected and to use the Christ energies, the Christ force, the light of the source, or however we want to imagine it, to keep ourselves protected, we will stay protected whether we are conscious or unconscious. In actual fact, when we're unconscious physically, we're more conscious because we start to become back to the energetic again. So we're actually more powerful unconscious. Does that help, Diana?
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on that? That was quite a good question. That was a very interesting angle of how to protect oneself.
Guy, it's Marjorie. Can I ask a question back on the walk-in?
Yeah, sure.
I am pretty sure that I am a walk-in. I've known that for a while, and you described exactly what has happened in my life. Question I have, though, and I never thought about, is I have some memories of some of the folks that are my life.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that walk-ins stay with it?
You there, Marjorie?
Yeah, I'm here. I can't hear you.
I lost you a bit then.
Okay.
Is it possible that, can you say that again? Is it possible that some of the memories?
I'm sorry, you broke up. Can you say that again?
Yeah. Did you say, is it possible that some of the memories from the previous walk-in can come into this walk-in?
No. Like, for instance, my father that I have in this lifetime, I have memories of other lifetimes with him.
Okay.
So I'm curious if because I remember I've experienced the young girl that I moved in on. I witnessed her request to leave,
mm-hmm.
and then remember being brought in. But most of the people I don't have memories of, but my father I do, and I'm just wondering, is it possible when a walk-in comes in, do they need to stay within their own soul group?
No, they don't need to stay within their own soul group. And in fact, some walk-ins don't have any knowledge at all that they're a walk-in from a physical perspective, whereas others can come in totally aware of what they are. Like some can come in totally and have total knowledge that they're a walk-in, and that they've moved from one body to another body, for instance, or they've come from spirit to a body. It just depends upon what needs to be done whilst incarnate. So so in terms of whether they stay with the soul group, it doesn't matter. It's just a case of how how the soul or the spirit wants to work with that particular vehicle, and what they're trying to achieve with that vehicle for the time they've got available with it.
Thank you.
Okay, did that answer your question, Marjorie, at all?
Sorta, yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I just found it odd that I would have a connection with anybody in the group that I'm with, when there's only one that I have any recollection of. So.
Yeah. Sometimes sometimes when we incarnate around the same people a number of times. So we might be a group of individuals who are working together, whether it's the same soul group, which would be, a soul group would be classified in two ways. Either a group of souls, or should I say aspects of a Godhead or a Trinity self that are working together from different Godheads or different Trinity selves, so it's intermingled, or they can be from the same Trinity self or Godhead. So a soul group can either be from one Godhead or one Trinity self only, or it can be a number of different Godheads or Trinity selves working together and intermingling the use of those projections, which are what we call the soul, to work with people. So it's, how can I say it? It's very convoluted how it works, but in essence, we can draw up, if you want to call it, contracts with each other to work with each other on various different, shall I say, tasks or projects for a number of different lives together, just to work it all out. So it can be, we can be working with all the different 12 aspects of our own Godhead together, or we can work with other aspects of other Godheads separately as well, but over a period of lives. And sometimes we meet up with those that we've known before, and sometimes there's new entities come into it as well. Did that help?
Yeah, no, that does. That brings some clarity. It was just a curiosity of mine. I hadn't really thought about it until you started talking earlier.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions on this before I move on to the next subject?
Guy, this is Alan.
Hi, Alan.
I'm wondering the karma of the spirit that decides to depart and the new entity, the walk-in that comes in. Does the walk-in take on what's left of the karma of the individual for this incarnation?
No. That goes with it. The individual soul is responsible for its individual karma whilst it's in the karmic cycle. Unless there's something else going on where an association with another individual allows karma to be taken away. For instance, in the subject of the student and the guru, yeah, where the guru will help the student move on by taking some of his karma away from him, and that can only happen when the guru or the teacher is so far advanced evolutionary wise that karma that's been taken on board from the students can be easily negated without affecting the guru or the teacher itself. Is that
Thank you. Yes, that really makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. So in effect, the body is the body, and the karma comes later. So the walking spirit would be bringing in its own karma basically, in that instance, and the spirit that's moved out would take its own karma with it, or that which it needs to work on with it, and it would use it then in its next incarnate cycle should it decide to do that. Okay, good question, Alan. That's a very good question. Thank you. Anybody else got any questions there. Right. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is talk about subincarnations. Now, a subincarnation has two aspects to it as well. A subincarnation is when a soul incarnates into a higher frequency vehicle. And by a higher frequency vehicle, it's an incarnate form that's a higher frequency within the physical universe. So if we understand that the human physical body manifests in the physical totally on the first 3 levels of frequency, although it uses another 7 more, but those other 7 are invisible to our physical eye, then we can understand that there are physical forms out there that are higher frequency than our human physical form, but are nevertheless physical anyway. It's just that they're a higher frequency. A little bit like comparing ice to air. Okay, if you slow down the frequency of air, it becomes denser and becomes water. If you slow down the frequency of water, it becomes denser and becomes ice. So you can see that an incarnate entity could be invisible to us, but nevertheless be physical from that perspective. Okay. So a subincarnation is when an entity, an energetic entity, incarnates in a higher frequency vehicle, such as, for instance, if we take into account the 12 frequencies of the physical universe, maybe they incarnate in the 9th or 10th frequency, which is well above our visual range. But then they decide that they want to experience a lower frequency. And so therefore they can, under special circumstances, leave their first incarnate vehicle in stasis and move out of that body energetically and move into a lower frequency body and animate that for a length of time, 90 years or 50 years or 60 years or whatever. The opportunity presented in doing that is that the entity itself, the energetic entity itself, and its colleagues of the higher frequency incarnate state can monitor and learn from that subincarnation. And then when that lower frequency vehicle demises, it will go back into its higher frequency body and then continue that particular incarnation before it leaves after that one finally demises. So this is an interesting concept, because it means that some individuals who've been abducted, supposedly having alien abductions, have been abducted because actually what's been going on is their peers in their first incarnation have been monitoring the vehicle that's been used by the individual soul that's decided to go into the subincarnation. So that means that sometimes they're taken away, they're moved out into a different location, they're brought up the frequencies, and they're taken into a ship, for instance, or some form of construct to be monitored, to see how the body's reacting to the subincarnation, to see how it's reacting to the environment, lower frequencies, and to see how long it's going to last, and download various bits of data that's been gathered during the lifetime of that physical body. Now, that's a clean subincarnation, where the soul comes out of that physical body, into the first one, the higher frequency physical body, in totality, and then comes down the frequencies to have its subincarnation as a whole soul. But what can happen, because it's in a higher frequency, that soul can decide to split off an aspect of itself, so that it still maintains the animation of the first high frequency vehicle, but can also animate a lower frequency vehicle as well, such as the human form. So in this instance, it's possible for a subincarnation to be a smaller aspect of the original incarnation, where, for instance, 70% of the soul's energy is staying in the first incarnation, the higher frequency incarnation, but only 30% of that is being used to animate the lower frequency incarnation, let's say the human vehicle incarnation. And sometimes these individuals are, what would you call it, slow learners, for instance, or they're a bit like the backfill people have talked about previously, where they have trouble in experiencing different things, but they nevertheless can function correctly within society. But sometimes they need a bit of extra help to carry on. So that's a subincarnation. Has anybody ever heard of the word subincarnation before, or thought about the opportunity of this function?
I've never heard of subincarnation before. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to have to do. Another article on this because this is all new stuff that's coming out, by the way, about different incarnate states and with the walk-ins as well, different functions there. But it
So how do you know if you're part of subincarnation? I personally feel a lot where I just don't fit in this society.
Yeah.
Could that be the case?
No. I think if you were a subincarnation, you wouldn't be thinking those thoughts, Leela.
Oh, okay.
Right. Most individuals who think they don't fit in are because they are of a higher frequency and are wondering how they can exist in such a low frequency environment in the first place.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about that particular one. But it's a subincarnation wouldn't know it's a subincarnation, but it might complain about being taken to places or experiencing things in the middle of the night where strange things happen to them because they're being monitored. Their primary incarnation or their peer group in the primary incarnation are monitoring what's going on because they're learning. It's like doing two lives at the same time with the same soul, as it were. One has a higher frequency, one has a lower frequency.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on subincarnations? Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to tell you how this came about. I was asked a question by a gentleman in Australia back in October last year, and we're on the New Earth cruise, to be honest, and we were stopped in Naples, and this guy had emailed me on my phone, and so I logged into to a question the question was about abductions, and all of a sudden this information compiling down, just downloading into me about subincarnation. This is what it's all about, and I thought, well, that makes sense now, which is interesting. Interesting different angle on what's happening, because really we have no idea what's going on around us. If we were only a little bit more attuned to the greater reality, we'd see that there's an awful lot going on around us, and it's just unbelievably convoluted. Okay. So does that make sense to people? Is it understandable that we can incarnate in two different bodies at the same time? Or we can move from one body to another body, provided the first one is a higher frequency.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So next time you hear of somebody being abducted, just think, I wonder if their primary incarnation, their peer group in the primary incarnation, is observing what's going on and downloading the information. Okay. Well, if you have no more questions on that, I'm just kind of listen to the time, because we had a few technical problems this time. I want to go into the meditation, if that's okay with everybody. Okay. So I'm just going to check. Joe, are you still online? Because you're showing that you're online, but I'm getting some.
I am online.
Oh, fantastic! I was a bit worried because it was looking like you were showing that you are online, but the icons that say that you could be online below it, the video call, another call with a greyed out. So brilliant. So excellent. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 of us still. Good. Right. So what I want to do with this meditation before we finish today's Satsanga is to do the inverse of what we did last month. Last month we basically went into a synergetic condition, MetaConcert, where we use the multiple of how many people are there. We had some people who are part of the Traversing the Frequencies workshop that John Marshall hosted take part in this as well. And so therefore we had 14 people there. But now we've only got 10, So this is the equivalent of having 10 times 10 people being part of this meditation, being joined together. But in that instance, in July, we used that collectivity to move out into the multiverse. What I wanted to do now is to use this to really become one entity, rather than but an entity together, as it were, moving around each other's energies, as it were, to really experience the beingness of being one part of a group of individuals together that are working together for a single cause. So this is going to be really another way of getting it of achieving oneness, okay? But it's going to be collective, synergetic oneness rather than just being together in a meditative state where we're all working towards the same thing. Okay. So what I want you to do is to sit in a comfortable position. That means you're not going to fall asleep. Feet flat on the floor. Back straight as possible. Small the back in the square of the chair. And if you can, your palms faced uppermost. Eyes closed, but the closed eye vision concentrating on the location of the third or spiritual eye. That being located in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And so we quieten ourselves down, and as we did last week, I want you just to imagine that you're walking down a corridor, and at the end of this corridor is a door. So open the door, and inside the door is a large white room. And in this large white room there are 3 chairs. And I am sitting in one of those chairs. I'm sitting in the centre chair, the middle chair. And I want you to sit either side of me. One of you can sit on the right hand side, the other one can sit on the left hand side. Now it doesn't matter who sits on right and left, just imagine which side you prefer to sit on. And you can either take my right hand with your left hand, or my left hand with your right hand. And in visualising this, you link together with me. So we walked into this room. We can close the door if we wanted to. And one by one, you take either my left hand with your right hand, or my right hand with your left hand. And we become linked together energetically. Good. Now we're all there. I want you to imagine that all of us start to separate out now. All of those people who are on the right hand side and all those people on the left hand side start to separate out now and form a circle of 10 people, with myself being one of those people. So all of a sudden they split out, becoming a ring of people sat down in their chair, with the right hand being held by somebody's left hand and their left hand being held by somebody's right hand. And we form this circle. Now we have a form of synergy here already doing this because we're all linked. But it's linear synergy. We have to go from one person to the next person to get to it. For instance, I have to go from me to Fiona to Chris to get to Lily, if I imagined it that way around. Okay? So it's quite a slow form of synergy. It's not really creating the multiple effects that we can have. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mentally move my chair into the centre of the circle, and then the people who are taking my right hand and left hand will join together. So whoever is taking my right hand, doesn't matter who, with their left hand takes the next person's right hand with their left hand. So the circle is maintained and I'm in the centre. So now we have one person in the centre and a ring of 9 people on the outside on their chairs. Now I want you to imagine that, let's say for instance from your heart centre, your heart chakra, you send a beam of light or a silver cord or a energetic link between yourself and the heart, my heart chakra as well. I can already feel people logging in, so that's good. So everybody's got a link, or a silver cord, or an energetic link, or a silver pipe, or whatever, moving from their heart chakra to my heart chakra. So we've formed a wheel. I'm in the centre as the hub, and each of you is on the outside as the rim, joined together by the spokes of the wheel. In this way, we are joined in a more efficient way. If, for instance, Lily wants to be in contact with Chris, Lily goes through me to Chris, rather than having to go through potentially Mo, Joe, Marjorie, or Meryl, for instance. Not Meryl, sorry, Lucy, for instance. Meryl's. I've got Meryl's energy here as well, you know. That's interesting, isn't it? Perhaps she's logging in. Perhaps she's logging in as part of listening to the recording later. Oh, isn't that interesting? So we're all together. And we are one from the centre. So present your consciousness now in from the physicality that's you, that body that's you, in towards the centre. So rather than having to go through me to somebody else, you can now just be part of me, all together. So there is no separation now. Lily is me. I am Lily. Marjorie is Lily. Marjorie is me. Alan is me. Chris is Alan. Joe is Marnie, and Marnie is Chris. Irrespective of the combination you can think of, you are all one and the same. There is no Marjorie, there is no Chris, there is no Lily, there is no Guy, there is no Alan, there is no Lucy, there is no Fiona, there is no Marnie, there is no Mo. We're all, there is no Lily, we're all one. So just feel what it's like to be in contact simultaneously in the same place with all those other aspects that are linked in the centre through this connection from the heart chakra of yourselves, your physical form, to my heart chakra, and your intention to be part of the centre hub, projecting your consciousness, your sentience, your soul, if you want to call it that, into the centre part. Everything overlaying in one go. This Jonas, Marjoriness, Monus, Liliness, Christness, Fionaness, Marniness, Luciness, Allanness, Guyness is all oneness. There is no separation, there is no names, we are just one entity. Notice how small you feel, how compact you feel. All of the energies, all of the memories, all of the experiences, all of the evolution, all of the learning, all of the progression, everything is one, in one entity, which is in the centre of the hub of this wheel. This compact hub now has the energetic, synergetic, MetaConcert based ability of 10 times 10 individuals, of 100 individuals. Feel how strong and powerful you feel together in this smaller unit. Feel how complete you feel. Feel how expansive you feel. Know that you are in one another's energy concurrently, and therefore you are all one together. There is no separation. Being together as one small compact unit of energy, we can do anything. So whereas previously we had to generally very slowly go out to the edge of the multiverse, we can just go there now. So imagine that you're sitting on the outside of a sphere. And this sphere is the 408th frequency, which is the 198th simultaneous universe. 97th. 397th simultaneous universe. Just imagine yourself suddenly being there. We're all there together. Now imagine going beyond that. Just sitting in space, outside of the multiverse space. You are in pure source entity space now. Not part of a construct that's been created for the benefit of a source entity and its creations to experience, learn and evolve. But we're now outside of that. We're in pure source entity space. This is the source entity. This is part of the source entity which is not used for anything else other than itself. Not part of a multiverse, not part of any entities that have been created. This is source entity space. You've only been able to move in this place because of becoming one. One together. Feel how different that energy feels. It's expansive, but it's not expansive. It is compact, but expansive. There is no resistance. It's like being an air molecule, moving around, feeling no resistance, moving with the wind or against the wind, but not being affected by the wind. And so now, having experienced that which is beyond the multiverse of the source, let's move back to where we have work to do in the physical. So just use our intention to move back onto the surface of this outer edge of the multiverse, this little compact group of souls in MetaConcert, on this 408th frequency level. And then imagine ourselves back in that room, this center point, this hub, where we're all concentrated, our consciousness, our sentience is concentrated in the centre hub. In this centre hub, if we wished, we could be any of us. I could be Fiona, Fiona could be Chris, Chris could be Marnie, Marnie could be Marjorie. We can experience everything about each other. Because we are each other. We don't need to communicate via something else to get to each other, because we are one and the same. But now it's time to separate out. So use your intention to project your consciousness back down that silver cord, or that shiny silver pipe that you've created between the heart chakra of your physical form and my heart chakra, and move your intention to be back into your body and observing the circular pattern of the 9 chairs around me, with me in the centre. Now you've separated out, being a singular soul in a singular body, linked together with the central soul in the middle, which is myself. So now we continue to disconnect, so remove the connection from the heart chakra by just contracting it back into your own heart chakra, leaving me in the centre with just a rim on the outside with no energetic spokes holding us together. And now I move back into the circle, and those 2 individuals that moved together now move apart, and their left hand is holding my right hand, and their right hand is holding my left hand, and we're all together. And now we can continue to deconstruct the MetaConcert by everybody now imagining they're either on the left hand side of me or the right hand side of me. So the circle now breaks, and a number go on my right hand side holding my right hand with their left hand, and a number go on my left hand side with their right hand holding my left hand. And now slowly you can let go of my right hand or my left hand, and get up out of your chair and walk towards the door, and open the door. And in opening the door and walking through the door into the corridor, you bring yourself back into your room where you are right now. So slowly open your eyes and come back into the room. And how do you feel? Okay. How is everybody? Joe, how are you?
I'm fine. It was very subtle energy, but there seemed to be a little bit of a melding there, and at some point I saw someone who was a bit of an issue in the family. I sent him light at that point, but it was different.
Thank you. It's a different way of doing it, isn't it? It's very compact and together. Okay. Mo, how do you feel?
Actually in a state of pure happiness.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Lucy, how is Lucy?
That was very, very interesting. There was a clap of thunder here. You know, we're having a potential thunderstorm. But you know, it didn't break the link at all.
That's
so
good.
It was a strong link.
Good. Thank you. Alan, how are you?
Oh, well, and what a privilege in a way to meet the God self and commune as God selves with one another. I've always had a feeling I want to meet all these people that we get together for these Satsangas, and many times visualize or imagine them, but to come into the God self with the God self to me is it's a gift of heaven.
Thank you. Okay, so Marjorie, how do you feel? Thank you, Alan.
wonderful. I didn't actually realize how much I had embedded into the group until we returned and felt the dip's connection one step at a time, and I realized then how strong we had been together. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Marnie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling a little lightheaded from this, but I wasn't feeling well in the last few days, so I don't know if it's my energy is not very strong to keep up, but it was relaxing, very relaxing.
Good. No, lightheadedness is one of the responses. That's a good response. Thank you for that. Chris.
I felt a bit tired, and felt a strong third eye. You know. I felt myself not an awful wee bit.
Good. Okay. It's a difficult one to be with because you're all together. And it's basically you lose your own personality in this. So it doesn't surprise me that sometimes people do feel more soporific. Okay. And Fiona.
I thought it was very interesting, Guy. Definitely more constricted. It felt quite tight.
Yes.
Like holding everything together. But then going into the multiverse, it felt very expansive. But it was very interesting.
Good, thank you. And Lily, how did you feel?
I felt really, really good. It felt like I was in a beautiful team of souls going up and visiting the source. And I could see you were shining really bright. There's a lot of light and everyone's shining and merging together and going their own.
It's fantastic, yeah. Good.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. Great
Thank
experience.
you. Yeah. For me, it's like we're all like an atom. We're all like an atom together, very crushed and small, and we just have no resistance. Then, but we're out. We're everywhere. We can do anything we want to. Fantastic. Well, that brings us to a close this month, and thank you very much for. We lost John, didn't we, at some point with all the technical issues, but John can catch up on the listening to the recording, and he knows that Skype is sometimes a little bit temperamental, but anyway, thank you all for logging in this 1 week early scenario. Thank you very much. The next one is going to be the 28th of September, which will be the week after the workshops we're holding with Matthias in Slovenia. So that'll be a great time as well.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, sure, Joe.
This is Joe, and I was unable to attend last month, but I was able to listen to the Satsanga the same day thanks to your family posting, and of all things, it was quite a meaningful experience, as though I was a part of the group, even though it was afterwards. So those of you who can't make it, you can join in and participate just by listening. For me, it was the same day after when Guy posted that thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
In no time.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, there is no time, is there? There's no time. Thank you, Joe, for that. It's good encouragement for others to not worry about missing the satsangas. They can always log in on and listen to the recording and become part of the energies. And that's why I really did feel Merrill in. It was interesting, that was. Really did feel Merrill's energy there. I thought, logged into this event space already. Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and I wish you a good night, a good evening, good morning, a good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And look forward to meeting with you again. Thank you, Namaste to all of you. Namaste.
Namaste, Guy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Till then.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a good afternoon.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?